Avengers Doomsday, a movie where the Avengers and the X-Men team up to find allies all across the multiverse in order to stop the villainous Doctor Doom and save the Marvel Universe as we know it. Or at least I think that's what's going on. I don't know, the movie hasn't come out yet. But what did come out is the Doomsday teaser, with Steve Rogers coming back, or Chris Evans, or Captain America. It's nice to see Captain America come back, yeah. But it's sad to see that Marvel has come into a hard 90-degree angle corner. Alright, so let me break it down for you guys. Now, let me start off by talking about how this all could have worked. How Doomsday could have worked. Now, with this teaser that they gave us, you're telling me that we're going back to the events of Endgame. Now, Endgame came out in 2019. And now we're getting a direct follow-up to the events of what happened in Endgame in the year of 2026. It's a little bit too late to be making a follow-up to the events of Endgame. It's gonna be about 7 years since Endgame. At this point in time, we should have been way ahead in the story already. And good god man, hopefully they don't use Captain America as like a cameo for Doomsday, dude. That would be the worst thing they could do. But based on the teaser that we got, it looks like Doomsday's gonna tie in back to whatever happened in Endgame from the looks of it. But if they were really going that route where it ties into Endgame, it's like I said, it's a little too late for that, dude. It's been about 7 years since they've had a big project that connects back to the events of Endgame while focusing on a new storyline. And most of the movies in the multiverse saga really don't build up to Doomsday. Now, we do have shows that are connected with the events that happened in Endgame, but right now I'm mainly talking about the movies, cause the movies are their main moneymakers here. First up, we got Black Widow. Black Widow's not even a part of anything that happens after Endgame. That movie takes place after the events of Civil War and beginning of Infinity War. Shang-Chi is its own standalone movie. Like, there's not really anything that's going on in the movie that happened because of Endgame or Infinity War, except maybe for those little bits of dialogue that talk about it, but other than that, it really would have no connection to Endgame. Now, as much as a flop Eternals was, it is pretty much connected to Endgame and Infinity War, because Thanos is an Eternal, and this movie's about Eternals, and they introduced Thanos' brother. I guess this movie just provides us more insight about Thanos' kind, but yet again, everything in this movie that happens isn't really because of anything that happened in Endgame or Infinity War. Spider-Man No Way Home is a movie that happens because of the events of Endgame and Infinity War. I mean, the movie did pick up like right after Far From Home, which was a movie dealing with the death of Iron Man after Endgame. And No Way Home literally happens because of what Doctor Strange did for Spider-Man. Doctor Strange was trying to do a favor for Spider-Man because of all they went through in Infinity War and Endgame, and saving the universe. Multiverse of Madness is kind of connected to Endgame, since WandaVision is connected to Infinity War and Endgame, and WandaVision pretty much leads up to Multiverse of Madness. Wanda's basically the only thing in this movie that's making it connect back to the Infinity Saga. This is also when the movies kind of stray away from the effects that Endgame has on the universe. Thor Love and Thunder is also a movie that's not really connected to Endgame and Infinity War. Aside from it being one of the most mid-Marvel movies, it really doesn't build up to anything big still. Quantumania is nowhere near close to being connected to the Infinity Saga, since this is the movie that introduces Kang, in probably the worst way possible, getting him beat by Ant-Man, who is considered by many to be one of the weaker Avengers, or at least more insignificant of them. Kang is supposed to be our big bad that we've been building up to, since they also had Loki building up to him too. The Avengers movie we were supposed to get was the Kang Dynasty, not Doomsday. The MCU could have been a little more consistent if we still stuck with the Kang Dynasty, but I don't think it was gonna make the MCU any better with all the bad shows and movies that they've been making. Along with Kang's actor being found not being a very good guy, which now we got Doctor Doom, which we had no proper build up to. Wakanda Forever has no correlation to the events of Endgame, or no build up to Doomsday at all, but I will give it this, that they did introduce us to the first mutant, which was Namor. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 does actually correlate with Infinity War and Endgame. Star-Lord's dealing with his loss of Gamora through the events of Infinity War, and Star-Lord has to accept that his Gamora is gone. And the Gamora that came from the past in Endgame is not his Gamora. Deadpool and Wolverine don't really have a correlation with Endgame and Infinity War. I will say if they are in Doomsday, I guess it does help introduce us to Deadpool and Wolverine. Captain America Brave New World does let us see more of our new Captain America. Even though this might be the most average movie in the MCU, this is the Captain America that we should be focusing on. But now we're getting Steve Rogers in Doomsday now, which is definitely gonna take the spotlight away from Sam Wilson's Captain America. The Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are basically gonna be leading up to Doomsday. All these movies that I've talked about have one thing in common, which is a lack of world building. You're telling me that after the events of Endgame and Infinity War, society on Earth and in every other world in the universe is still functioning normally? First you had 50% of all life in the universe get snapped away, and then 5 years pass. And people get snapped back in, only to find out that they've lost 5 years of their life, and find out that life has moved on without them. Now, there are certain projects in the multiverse saga that do deal with the effects of the snap, but it's not focused on enough to the point where it can actually be a bigger storyline. Because that's what the multiverse saga should have been, dealing with the aftermath of the snap and the events that took place in Endgame, which actually should have been the Kang storyline. Kang was literally created by the events of Infinity War and Endgame. Thanos snaps away half of all life, and then after that, he destroys all the stones so that it cannot be undone. And that forces our heroes to go back in time and mess with the timelines a little bit. And when they were messing with the timelines, Kang the Conqueror was born. And this new phase of Marvel should have been all about dealing with the aftermath of Endgame, and focusing on the consequences of what our heroes have done, creating a villain that might be an even bigger threat than Thanos. Now let me hop into the comics real quick, so let's talk about Secret Invasion. Now Secret Invasion was a very different situation, but the impact that Secret Invasion left leading into the next big event should have been what the Infinity Saga would do for its next phase. Secret Invasion is about the Skrulls infiltrating every major organization on Earth, in which would allow them to act on their full-scale invasion. And the Skrulls did succeed for a good chunk of the story. But at the end of the day, the heroes do come out on top and stop this full-scale invasion of the Skrulls. After Secret Invasion, it would leave a big impact for the next big event to come, which would be Dark Reign. This is when Norman Osborn takes over things. He becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and renames S.H.I.E.L.D. into Hammer. He would be able to assemble his own corrupted Avengers team. Norman Osborn was also seen as a hero to the public, because he took advantage of the situation due to the events that took place in Secret Invasion. Iron Man was seen as a bad guy because he was director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and yet he was unable to stop the invasion from even happening. And many people saw him to be pretty incompetent of holding the title of director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and being one of Earth's heroes. Thor didn't even like the guy by the end of the story because of events that happened prior, like Civil War and World War Hulk, and now Secret Invasion. Pretty much everything in the Dark Reign event happens because of Secret Invasion. And all this could have been the same thing that the Infinity Saga could have done. When Thanos snaps away half of all life, there's gonna be a lot of people that enter a dark place during those 5 years of the snap, losing lots of loved ones and blaming Thanos and the Avengers for half of all life being snapped away. For the people that get snapped back in Endgame, they'll still be in a dark place too, learning that life has moved on without them. And whatever they've owned, it's not theirs anymore. Their houses, cars, personal belongings, it wouldn't even be theirs anymore. It's now owned by someone else, since they've been gone for so long. The impact that Endgame leaves off with is already enough to tell a whole nother storyline. dealing with the aftermath of Thanos, which is what Doomsday might be doing with this teaser of Captain America coming back. But like I said, it's too late for that, because most of the movies in this new phase just act like the problems that come from Infinity War and Endgame just don't exist, and because of that lack proper build up to Doomsday. There's a very good point that Vision talks about in Civil War. I'll let the clip play out.
In the 8 years since Mr. Stark announced himself as Iron Man, the number of known enhanced persons has grown exponentially. And during the same period, the number of potentially world-ending events has risen at a commensurate rate.
He's saying it's our fault?
I'm saying there may be a causality. Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict, and conflict breeds catastrophe.
Now, to basically simplify his quote, he's basically saying that just by heroes doing what they do best, saving lives, beating the bad guys, it just all creates another problem, like an Ultron, like a Thanos, like a Kang, like a Doctor Doom. That's what this phase of Marvel should have been about, leading up to Doomsday. The consequences of what our heroes had to do to save the universe. They already had the set pieces in the Infinity Saga already. Doctor Strange seeing multiple outcomes / timelines. The Ancient One warning us about tampering with time, society in shambles after the snap, our heroes tampering with the timelines, and Steve going back to put all the stones where they belong. And he ultimately stays behind and spends his life with Peggy. And all this would probably come full circle and create more problems for them. It was all already a recipe for more potential in the MCU's storytelling. There's also a lot of potential in exploring the drastic changes in society, possibly not only on Earth, but probably on other planets. This phase of Marvel also should have been about the world around our heroes changing, possibly giving us more heroes and villains that are directly caused from the events of Endgame and Infinity War, making more people that are in need of help because of the snaps that happen, or creating a big new villain that might be more powerful than Thanos. Now, when Endgame did end, Marvel did release projects that did focus on these aspects, but as Marvel and Disney kept going on, more and more of their projects just started ignoring the world building and the changes that the Infinity Saga had on the universe of the MCU. And I guess now we're finally getting something that kind of connects back to Endgame. But I'm afraid the MCU has already run its course. It's too late now. These 7 years of what was supposed to be the build up to Doomsday was wasted. And wasted by movies and Disney Plus shows that don't even properly build up to Doomsday or Doctor Doom. It makes these 7 years of MCU content feel like a waste of time. And hopefully Doomsday actually provides to the overall storyline of the MCU. Even if it does, I still don't think it's gonna work out. But it should be interesting seeing how it all goes down. And yeah, I think that's all I gotta say about Doomsday right now. So, I'll see you guys in the next video.